Glam rock did not just appear as a music style. It arrived as an attitude, a look, and a rejection of what rock music was supposed to be. Its rise began in the early 1970s as a reaction against serious, roots-driven rock that dominated the late 60s. Rock had become heavy, introspective, and tied to ideas of authenticity and realism. Glam rock pushed back by embracing fantasy, artifice, and spectacle. It made performance just as important as sound and turned the rock star into a larger-than-life character. Over time, glam rock would evolve, fracture, and eventually re-emerge in a louder, flashier form on the Sunset Strip, before collapsing under its own excess and changing cultural tastes. The story of glam rock is one of constant reinvention, from British art rock stages to Hollywood clubs, and its rise and fall mirrors the shifting desires of youth culture itself. The earliest form of glam rock took shape in the United Kingdom in the early 1970s, driven by artists who understood that image could be power. Mark Bolan and T-Rex were central to this moment. Bolan stripped rock down to swaggering riffs and catchy choruses while presenting himself as a glittering pop figure who blurred masculine and feminine traits. His music was simple, rhythmic, and sensual, and his visual presentation was just as important as the songs. Glitter makeup, feather boas, and confident poses turned Bolan into a symbol of glam's promise. Around the same time, David Bowie transformed glam rock into something more theatrical and conceptual. With Ziggy Stardust, Bowie created a character that allowed him to explore identity, fame, sexuality, and alienation through performance. Ziggy was not just a musician, but a myth. Bowie's stage shows, costumes, and movements made concerts feel like art pieces. And for many fans, glam rock became a space where self-invention felt possible. Glam rock thrived because it perfectly suited to mass media. Television amplified its visuals, and glam artists understood how to command attention in short, striking performances. Glitter, makeup, and dramatic fashion translated well on screen, helping glam spread quickly. The movement also spoke to young people living through economic instability and social change. Glam rock did not offer realism, it offered escape. Its songs were about desire, fame, rebellion, and transformation. Even when the music hinted at darkness, it was wrapped in fantasy and performance. Bands like Roxy Music added sophistication to glam, combining experimental sounds with high-fashion imagery and art school sensibilities. Their work showed that glam could be both stylish and intellectually adventurous. Across the Atlantic, glam took on a rougher edge. The New York Dolls mixed lipstick and leather with raw rock and roll, presenting a chaotic, gender-bending image that challenged American expectations of masculinity. Though they struggled commercially at the time, their influence would later be felt deeply in punk and hard rock. By the mid-70s, however, the original wave of glam rock began to fade. The shock wore off. What once felt daring started to feel familiar. The music industry flooded the market with copycat acts, chasing the look without the innovation. Audiences began craving something new. Punk rock emerged as a response, rejecting glam's theatricality in favor of speed, anger, and raw simplicity. Many glam pioneers moved on or reinvented themselves, and by the late 70s, glam rock seemed like a brief but brilliant moment. But glam did not disappear. It migrated. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, glam rock found a new home in Los Angeles, particularly on the Sunset Strip. Here, glam fused with hard rock and heavy metal, evolving into what would later be called glam metal or hair metal. This new version kept glam's obsession with image and excess, but paired it with louder guitars, aggressive rhythms, and an unapologetic party ethos. The clubs along the Sunset Strip became incubators for bands who understood that success depended on spectacle as much as sound. Appearance mattered. Hair got bigger. Clothes got tighter. Makeup returned. But now it was paired with leather, studs, and spandex. One of the most important bands in this era was Motley Crue. Formed in Los Angeles in 1981, Motley Crue embodied the dangerous, decadent spirit of Sunset Strip glam. Their music was heavy and fast, but their image was pure glam excess. They cultivated a reputation for chaos, rebellion, and indulgence that matched the neon-soaked nightlife of Hollywood. Albums like Shout at the Devil turned them into icons of the scene, and their stage shows emphasize shock, attitude, and volume. Motley Crue proved that glam aesthetics could coexist with heavy metal aggression, setting a template for countless bands that followed. Around the same time, bands like Poison embraced a brighter, poppier version of glam metal. Poison leaned heavily into catchy hooks, colorful fashion, and playful energy. Their look was exaggerated even by glam standards, with towering hair, bold makeup, and flamboyant outfits. Songs about love, youth, and nightlife made them accessible to a wide audience, especially on music television. Poison's success showed that glam metal could dominate mainstream pop culture, not just underground club scenes. Cinderella offered a slightly different take, blending glam visuals with blues-influenced hard rock. Their image fit the Sunset Strip aesthetic, but their sound leaned toward grit and grit-soaked vocals. This balance helped them stand out in an increasingly crowded scene. Kiss, though formed earlier, also played a major role in glam's evolution and longevity. With their theatrical makeup, costumes, and explosive stage shows, Kiss had always prioritized spectacle. In the 80s, their influence was impossible to ignore, and their decision to eventually remove their makeup reflected how deeply image and reinvention were tied to glam's DNA. Bands like Warrant, Rat, Dokken, and Quiet Riot further defined the Sunset Strip era. Each contributed to the glam metal explosion that dominated the 80s. Music videos became essential, and bands designed their looks for maximum impact on television. Glam metal thrived in this environment because it understood visual storytelling. The rise of this second wave of glam was massive, but its fall was just as dramatic. By the late 80s, excess had become the norm. What once felt outrageous now felt routine. The themes of non-stop partying, easy rebellion, and polished rebellion began to feel disconnected from real life. Audiences, especially younger listeners, started to crave authenticity and emotional weight. In the early 90s, grunge exploded onto the scene, led by bands that rejected glam's polish and spectacle. Flannel replaced spandex. Messy hair replaced teased perfection. Grunge framed glam metal as artificial and out of touch, and the shift happened quickly. Record labels dropped glam bands, radio formats changed, the Sunset Strip scene collapsed almost overnight. Many glam bands struggled to adapt, and others faded into nostalgia circuits. The fall of glam rock and glam metal was not just about music, it reflected a cultural shift. Glam thrived in times of escapism and optimism. It faltered when audiences wanted honesty, introspection, and realism. Yet glam's influence never truly disappeared. Its emphasis on image, performance, and identity reshaped popular music permanently. Later artists across genres would borrow glam's theatrical instincts, whether through fashion, stage personas, or visual storytelling. The rise and fall of glam rock reveals how culture moves in cycles. Glam challenged norms, became mainstream, and eventually burned out under its own weight. But its core ideas endured. The belief that music can be larger than life, that identity can be fluid and performative, and that spectacle can be meaningful continues to shape pop culture. Glam rock may have fallen from dominance, but its glitter still lingers, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful revolutions start with a spotlight, a costume, and a courage to be unapologetically unreal. Like, comment, and subscribe for daily history and culture content.